Hey folks, welcome back. Dr. D in a Dungeon. And I did, as part of my upgrades for my 2x72 belt grinder, I made this knob, and I just had it on time lapse, and it occurred to me that there are probably people out there who, and I've actually talked to several people, you know, they'll buy a 3D printer and, you know, they love the 3D printer, but they're stuck, you know, making things off of Thingiverse or Maker World or whatever, right? They're lacking the utility to make things that they need. And so I thought I would spend, I don't know, this will probably be a 10 or 15 minute video on how I do a simple knob, right? And this worked out really well the other day, other than the fact that I misjudged my depth and it wound up cutting out, so I had to super glue it. But I'm going to show you the process that I utilize to do this in Fusion 360. Now, Fusion 360 has a free version for hobbyists, and then you know, I actually use a paid version because some of the stuff I do is you know, for money. And so, all right, let's kind of walk through this, and you know, can you come in close on that, and I'll. Okay. All right, so we're going to use a different bolt. Well, actually, it might be the same bolt. I don't know. Graphics driver's out of date. Okay. All right, so the very first thing that we need to do is in Fusion, we're going to have to create a sketch, right? And so over here in the top, we've got this, and this tells us our different views, right? And it really doesn't matter which you use, but I actually prefer to be on my top view. All right. It doesn't really matter. Here in the middle is the origin, and I usually, especially if I'm doing something round, I use the origin as my center point. All right. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a sketch, and then it's going to ask us what plane. Where do you want to start it? Well, we're on our top view, so I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to click on that, and now all of a sudden it opens up our sketch palette. All right. So the way I do this is, you know, I'm basically going to put all the geometry on this sketch, and then I'll extrude it two different ways. All right. So we have this bolt. All right, and we're going to have a through hole that is 432 thousandths. I'll probably go to like 442, because again, you want to give a little bit of clearance, and each 3D printer is going to be a little bit different, all right, in level of precision. I use the Bamboo Labs, and they're pretty accurate, you know, generally within 10 thousandths is, you know, where I find them to be. I have a Mark Forged, and it usually is right on, but it's a lot more expensive to print with a Mark Forged, and I rarely do anymore. All right, so I'm going to go over here, and here are my creation tools. All right, and so right up front, and so these are the quick clicks, and then down here we have the more options, right? All right, so for the first one, I just want a center diameter circle. I'm going to click on the origin, and I said 432, and so you can see it's giving me that, and then the dimension is in blue right now, which means it's highlighted. So I'm going to put 0.430, actually I want to go 442, right? 442. All right. Okay, so that'll be my through hole for the bolt. Great. And then, and you can use your mouse wheel to zero in, and then if I want to move this around, I just press the mouse wheel in and I can move it around, right? Handy little features. All right, and we're not done. It's asking you, do you want to finish your sketch? No, I'm not done with the sketch yet. All right, so 0.442 diameter circle. So on this particular one, I had a washer that I wanted to utilize, right, as a wear surface, as a friction surface. And so I think I'm going to do the same thing. All right, and so what I did is I measured this, and it's like 1 inch 5/1000ths. And I think I did this at 1 inch. Yeah, it actually came out right on 1 inch. Well, a little over, a little under, sorry. So, yeah, 5/1000ths under. So yeah, let's pick that same. All right, so I'm just going to do another circle, another center circle, and I'm going to pull that out and point. Oops, no, not point. 1 inch. All right. All right, and then it's telling me over here that hey, these guys have a they're concentric to each other, right? That's what this little thing here is. One of the constraints. It's showing that it's concentric. All right, and that's important. We want it to be concentric. All right, and then I just picked an arbitrary number. I think I did 1.5 inches. What do I got here? I don't know, 1 3/4 inches. Okay. And so let's do another center circle. All right, 1.75. All right, and then enter, and then poof, there it goes. Okay, so that's handy. All right, now the next thing that I need to do is, let's see what I want to do first. Order operations sometimes matter, sometimes not so much. I think I will go ahead and, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do my bolt circle, or not my bolt circle, the hex head. All right, so on this I need to make a polygon, right? And so I'm going to click into my create, and then if I come down here, there's polygon, and let's see, and the midpoint of one edge. Yeah, okay, that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use the circumscribed polygon, and so what that does is it uses the center point out to one edge. All right, so center point out, and so this one's real easy because I can just measure this, and that is 616.616 inches. All right, so let's keep that number in mind. All right, so we're going to do that, and then I'm going to put the center point there, and we pull it out, and let's go back. Create polygon. All right, and it should ask me how many sides. Oh, okay. So here's my sides. It's already set for a hexagon, so you can see it here. If I use the tab function, I can tab in between. So if I want to do a 7 sides, oh, it'll do it. All right, put 6, and then I have a 616. So half of 616 would be 308. So let's go 310. 0.310. Whoops. Tab 0.310. All right, enter. All right, and there we go. And it's showing that as concentric as well. All right, so we got 6 sides. Yep, all looks good. All right, so then now the next thing I want to do is I want to make my finger grooves, and I did 2, 4, 6. All right, and so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another center diameter circle, and I'm going to come out here, and this is just an arbitrary. We'll do 1.5. I think that's fine. All right. Okay, so that looks okay. And then the next thing we want to do is we're going to do another center point circle. All right, and actually, No, I don't like this one. So let's just do undo, and then let's do this again. All right, so 1.5. Let's do 1.575. 1.6. What's that give me? We'll do that. All right, now I'm going to take this and let's see, 0.5. What do I think? Did I do 0.5 on these? Yeah, 0.5. Actually, you know what? Let's just do this. Let's just draw them right on the periphery. 0.5. Okay, so these will wind up being the finger cutouts, right? All right, so now I've got that one on there, and then we're going to go down here back to create, and we're going to do a circular pattern. All right, so object, select that, center point, we'll be back down here at our origin, and then distribution full. So if I wanted to do 3/4 of the circle or whatever, you can do that, you know. So here it says full, partial, symmetrical. You got a lot of different options, but we want full. And then I'm going to do 6. All right, I think that'll look good. And okay. All right, so now I think we have all the geometry that we need in here, and I'm going to finish sketch. All right. So now then, I think what I want to do is we're going to do this one first. And I'm going to click down here on the orbit, and I'm going to turn this on its side. All right, and you'll see why here in just a second. So I have that let's see. Yeah. So I've got those two selected, and then I'm going to do an extrude. And all right, so now you can see that I've got this button here, and that allows me to push that up. And let's see, I think this one, I'm going to do it. Let's do 600,000. All right. So I'm pulling it, so you see why I flipped it on its side, so I can actually see where I'm going with that. And I can actually just pull it to where I want to, or you can see that the dimension is highlighted, 0.6. And that should have been a negative 0.6. So negative 0.6. All right, there we go. And all right. So on this particular instance, this is a new body. All right, and we're going to hit OK. All right. Now I'm going to go back to my top view, and my sketch went away. Oh my gosh, what happened? All right. So if I go over here on the left-hand side, you can see there's my sketch 1, and it's currently turned off. I'm going to turn it back on. All right. Okay, now I'm going to select this area. All right, and you notice how I didn't select in any of these, and we're going to do that extrude. And this way, I'm going to do 2 sides, and what that does is it's going to move it both ways. And this is where I messed up last time, in that I just extruded it one way, and so it made it. All right, so let's see, let's flip this back over so we can see where we're going. All right, so it's asking how much to go up, and I'm just going to hit escape there. And let's see, how far do we want? What do we do here? 1/2 inch. All right. So we're going to do here, 0.5. going to do that way, 0.1. All right, and then the other way, 0.5. All right. All right, and so I click on my orbit and make sure that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, so far we're looking good. All right, hit escape. All right, now really important here, operation join. So if I created this as a new body, it'll create it and it'll look like they're joined, but they're not. It'll be two separate entities. So I want to make sure that I have join. All right, and then hit OK. All right, and then I can use my little orbit tool, come around. Yeah, everything's looking good so far. All right, now the last thing I have is I want to cut the I want to cut this down, right? And I want to cut it down. Looks like 300 thousandths, 0.3. All right, so I selected it. I'm going to hit extrude. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go over here and I'm going to cut. So that tells it I'm cutting this out of the other. All right, one-sided distance, and what did I say it was, 0.3? 0.3. And so it said, oh, no target body found, because we're going the wrong direction. So if I put that negative in there, then it's going to go the right direction. All right, or I could have just pulled a little arrow down and that would have been fine too. All right, so we can see where the cut is. All right, it all looks good. All right, escape, and then cut, okay. All right, so now we have our rudimentary knob, right? Everything looking pretty good, but man, if you were to grab that, it's got all kinds of sharp edges and stuff. And if we look at this one, and all those edges are broken, right? So let's do that. Let's break all those edges. So we're going to come over here and hit the fillet tool. And then all I'm going to do is select all these edges. Looks like I got them all. And then, what do they use? 0.125, an 1/8 inch. Yeah, I think that's fine. All right, so you see, and it gives you a preview. And if I didn't like that, I could just, let's change it to 0.25. And then it says, oh, no, can't do that with that particular drawing. All right, so 1/8 inch works, so we're going to say OK. And I could have, while I was doing a selection, I could have rolled this over the other way and selected all those, but there really was no need to. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off this sketch because I don't actually need it now. And so we're going to hit fillet again, and again we're just going to select all these edges. Looks like I got an extra edge there. We'll come back to that one. All right. 0.125. All right, so now they're all. Now you can see over here, we inadvertently selected that vertex there, and it's okay, it's not a problem, because I'm going to do that now anyhow. So again, I'm going to do the fillet, and I'm just going to select all these edges. And I can use my little orbit tool as I'm in here, and then just hit escape to come out of it. that cleaned up nicely. All right. And then I'm just going to put the slightest little bit of chamfer on the end here. Let's do 0.03375. That's just enough to round it over a little bit. And then let's go back over. And then I'm going to do the same thing right here. All right, fill it. 0.03375. There. All right, so there we go. We've got our part. It looks like it's going to be just fine. And you can see I'm using my little orbit tool down here, and I just hold down the left mouse button and roll it around. If you get lost in the sauce, sometimes it's if you're not used to using the orbit tool, you can get your part where you really can't do what you want to do. I can go right back over here and I can click on that, and now I'm back at my top view, right? And then I can go all around this thing. Now I'm back in my front view, back to my top view. All right, so let's save that. Save. What is this? 7/16? Yeah. Shift. Bolt. Knob. Tutorial. Bolt knob tutorial. Yeah, that'll work. All right. Save it. All right. So now I still can't use this in my 3D printer, right? I've got to do something else to it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over here to File, and I'm going to go to Export. All right. And so most printers will use an STL file and stereolithographic files. So I click that. It says, where do you want to send it? And then I export it. Export complete. All right, great. Now this is what I find is that I'm just going to leave that open, and then if I'm using Bamboo Studio, I'm not going to do that right now. All right. So now I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to import. All right. And so this will take 3MF, STL, step, SVGs, object. All right. But the vast majority of 3D printers will accept an STL file. All right. And so, all right, I'm going to click on that. And then it brings me, because I always go to the same place, bolt knob tutorial. Yep, there it is. And I'm going to open that. All right, so now we're in Bamboo. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, yep, will you auto orient? And it did. It was already there. All right, so I have this little guy here. All right, and I can look around. Yeah, everything looks good. Come back out. All right. Okay, so I've got that. Now I'm going to come over here, and then this talks about quality. I usually don't mess with any of that. Strength, wall loops. I'm going to do 5 wall loops. Top shell layer 6. Bottom shell layer is 6, and then I'm going to call it 30%. All right, because I want this to be a little more durable. All right. Now, with that all being said, when we go in here, So we've got the knob itself is overhanging, right? There's nothing underneath it. And so I'm going to have to turn on support, all right, if I want it to be successful. And so go to support, I'm going to click OK, and the tree thing works all right, and I usually just leave it on auto. I've never found a reason to change it. All right, and then I'm going to come back up here to the top and hit slice plate. All right, and it comes back and it says, oh, it's going to use 44 minutes of time, and that's including the warm-up. All right, and then let's see, we're going to use 5 meters, 15 feet. All right, and it tells you, estimated cost is 44 cents to make that. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit print plate, and then it says, okay, are you going to use this printer? Yep, that's the printer that I have on right now, and I send it. All right, so it brings me over here. Hopefully I have enough black PLA in there. It's not looking like I do, but maybe I do. All right, so it's downloading, and then we'll hear the printer start here in a little bit. I guess I could have picked a different color. Oh, there it goes. All right, and now I'm going to click on over here, and it's going to open up my camera, and I can actually watch what the printer's doing. So I'm going to take you over, I'm going to put you on time lapse on the actual printer itself. I actually could pull that time lapse off of here, but that's just more editing for me. So I'm going to turn you off here, and then we'll put you on time lapse. The Bamboo has a somewhat lengthy startup period, and it's going to go through a whole bunch of self checks, and then it'll auto check the bed level, and it's going to do a vibration test and the whole 9 yards. So, like I said, it's about 6 minutes to get ready to start printing, and then we'll have 30 some odd minutes of printing. So I'll start you when we come to the actual printing part. Back in a bit. All right, there we go. So you can see all the little trees on there for support. Looks like it came out right. All right, folks, we just got that off the printer, and the little trees break off without too much difficulty. Sometimes I'll stick a screwdriver in there just to make it a little easier. Alright, there we go. So they're all broken off of there. And then the screw, come on in here. So let's see if I got my tolerances right. It looks close. Oh yeah. It's seated. It's not fully seated yet, but we'll let me go get something and we'll seat that fully. Be right back. All right, so it started, and I'm just going to lightly tap it in. Yeah. Perfect. So you see it's all the way seated. And so there we have it. You can see we still got a little bit of the underside of the knobs. Still got a little bit of artifacts there, but it's on the back side. Front side doesn't look too bad. So there you have it. I hope this was helpful for you. Helpful for you. Please like and subscribe. Have a great week.